In another editorial, Dr. Martin Mungwa specifically said Ambazonians must awaken to the reality, looking at the bigger picture, that France's continued support for Paul Biya is not about stability but about maintaining control and influence. Biya's recent rhetoric signals a clear plan to install his son, Frank Biya, as successor, turning Cameroon into a political dynasty backed by foreign interest. Now, this is not just a Cameroonian issue. It is a direct threat to Ambazonian identity and self-determination. Saying no to their political process is more than protest. It's a declaration of Ambazonians' rights to exist as a people separate from La République du Cameroun. Now, to a future that Ambazonians shape themselves. One built on digital innovation, education, and unity. Independence requires not just resistance, but organization. Ambazonians has to come together beyond division and commit to building the institutions and systems that will support a sovereign nation. The collective power lies in Ambazonia's unity, vision, and determination to reclaim her destiny. And from all this, we get this from Dr. Martin Mungwa's audio, which we're going to listen to right now in its detail.
This is the voice of Ambazonia, broadcasting from the heart of the resistance across the homeland and the diaspora. Today's editorial, announced by France, rejected by the people, Biya's candidacy, and the new Ambazonian vision. Fellow Ambazonians, the unimaginable has become routine. After 43 years in power, Paul Biya, a 92-year-old dictator who has not addressed his people directly in years, has announced his candidacy for an 8th term as president. But more scandalous than the announcement itself is where and how it was made. Through the French embassy. Let that sink in. A so-called independent republic, La République du Cameroun, has declared its next presidential candidate through the embassy of a foreign power. Not Yaoundé, not the Prime Minister's office, not Elekam, but the French government. This is not sovereignty. This is colonialism with a microphone, and it sends a crystal clear message. France is still in charge. They have chosen Biya once again, not because he is strong or wise, but because he is compliant, incapacitated, and already embalmed in political paralysis. He is the mask, and behind him, Frank Biya waits as the face of the next substitution plan, groomed in the shadows, polished for continuity, and wrapped in French perfume. Biya's message was laced with illusions. The best is yet to come. I will prioritize youth and women. I am responding to the call of the people. But what people? What youth? What women? Ask the mothers of Gabu, the orphans of Muyuka, the displaced of Kumbo, the burnt-out families of Ikona and Batibo. Has Biya ever prioritized them? Ask our teachers and lawyers beaten in the streets. Ask the students kidnapped and molested. Ask the thousands burnt in mass graves. For 43 years, his best has been our worst. And now he offers 7 more years. This is not a vision. This is necropolitics, the politics of death recycled with French cologne. Ambazonia must now rise with clarity and discipline. Our response must not be emotional but strategic, not desperate but determined. The Ambazonian strategy, a new vision. 1. Full boycott and lockdown in October for a date to be determined. Let no Ambazonian participate in this farce. Let every village shut down, every street go silent. Let us speak with absence. Our no vote is a yes to independence. 2. Community reawakening. This is the hour to re-educate our people, to remind them that we are not Cameroonians, that the battle is not just about Biya, but about Bamenda versus Lyon, Boya versus Paris, Victoria versus Versailles. 3. Grassroots sovereignty. Let our local leaders govern with integrity. Let our humanitarian arms serve our people. Let the ASA protect with dignity, not brutality. Let our revolution be clean, focused, and people first. 4. A vision beyond resistance. Ambazonian must not just say no to Biya. We must say yes to a future. Yes to schools without military checkpoints. Yes to hospitals without gunmen. And yes to farming without raised villages. Yes to a digital economy powered by our youth, built on liberty, not La République's leftover contracts. Biya was announced by France. We, Ambazonians, must be announced by history. History must record that we stood up, not just with bullets, but with banners of hope. not just with anger, but with organized love for our land. Let the world know, while France props up a dying regime, Ambazonia is birthing a living nation. While Paul Biya looks backwards, we march forward. He may have the French embassy, but we have the hearts of a people, the clarity of a cause, and the courage to see it through. This has been the voice of Ambazonia. Truth, courage, and freedom. The dawn is breaking.
All right, Barrister Mbase, you're listening to these words from Dr. Martin Mungwa. What would you say the message would be to the world when Ambazonians implement all that he has said? What would the message be to the world? What message would Ambazonia be passing to the world? Yes, please.
Well, the message we're passing to the world, which we should be passing to our brothers and sisters of Ambazonia, is that Ambazonia is not part of Cameroon. That's just a fact. I happen to be one of those who follow a lot of debates on the different channels in Douala and Yaoundé. Not now, but forever. Where did they ever hear them mention, when they talk about the Maquisards, they fought for independence, they did all this. Nobody has ever mentioned that Southern Cameroon fought for independence by leaving Nigeria because we're not part of it. They never mention anybody there. They don't mention Ndele, they don't mention Fonchas, and they don't mention anybody to us. We are not part of them. They have shown us that as a fact. And so why are we fighting to belong? The French have what, the French Cameroon and other colonies have what they deserve. It is practically clear. They cannot do anything in Yaoundé, politically reasonable, unless they seek the permission of Paris. In addition to all we already know, Paul Biya again declaring himself the best student of Mitterrand, that is a French president. Paul Biya going to France to give account of his Ghana national dialogue to Mitterrand. Paul Biya, the president of Cameroon, receiving instructions that come to and should be released, including Agwambala. That is clear evidence which is irrefutable. Can anybody doubt that? Certainly not. But as far as we are just now, they are in election fury. They are campaigning to replace Paul Biya or for Paul Biya to be elected. But you don't even campaign there unless you go and get the sanction from France. Is this imagination? No. Kamto, the leading candidate, they launch his campaign in Paris. Was it in May? He could not hold a rally in Douala. He launched it in Paris. Whatever rally he had there, that was the launch of his campaign. It is on record. Yaoundé is vetting the candidate who will replace whoever is in Yaoundé, who would associate with them. We have seen France receive Akeremona, who is a candidate. We have seen France receive Issa Chiroma, who declares himself a candidate, and others. So it is not a satellite of France. It is a satellite of France. No question asked. And so the French will only act in their best interest. It did not start with Cameroon. They've had that policy in Africa forever. And let me give this clear example to support that. Cameroon, for example, and Cote d'Ivoire are two supposedly very close allies of France. Let us take the Cote d'Ivoire. Without a conflict which resulted in a 10 years war. And France showed its ability to manipulate it. When the conflict started in 2002, when the war broke up, Mr. Gbagbo, who was the president, was an ally of France. He was an ally of France. Because the rebels had taken over Abidjan. But the French came with their military forces and decided where the line would be. They drove them from Yamoussoukro across to Bouaké and settled the operation there while the war continued. They regarded the war themselves in their best interest until Mr. Gbagbo himself made the saddest error of his life by bombing a French military base where I think 3 or 4 Frenchmen died. And because 4 or 3 Frenchmen died, France withdrew his support from Gbagbo. And we all know what happened to Gbagbo. Gbagbo ended up in jail. He remained at The Hague for 10 years undergoing trial, even though he won. but he was captured by the French, taken to the Hague, because he had violated the interest of France by mistakenly bombing a French base. And so that's just an illustration. That is the fact. I was in Bouake. I saw what was there. I was there. There were French forces there. They called them. I visited them next camp. I lived there in Bouake for almost a year. And so France is doing what they do all the time. Our problem is not France. No. Our problem is the willingness of the citizens of Cameroon, within Cameroon, to accept that type of nonsense 50 years after independence or more. We're part of this thing now. The French are even to guide them to the point that right now, just a few months ago, or about a year ago, when they authorized France, let us write the history of the genocide. It should be written the genocide that was committed by France in Cameroon. The history should be written by, by France. The version of the history they want. And they did it. And tomorrow will become part of the book that we read in schools, that they read over there. Has France made a mistake now? Will you indict your own parents if you ask to write the history of your family? If your father was a rapist, you will not call that. If your mother was a harlot, you will not put that. And so this is France. France has lived that life forever. Unfortunately, they are trying to extend their boundaries of behavior to people who don't belong to them. That is just our problem. The only problem we have is France trying to delve themselves. They would continue with their policies without the people of Cameroon as long as they want it. We have no problem. The only problem we have having such a neighbor is that if you have a neighbor who keeps his or her house so dirty, the stains from that house will cross the border to you. But that's your neighbor anyway. And so that is what is happening in Yaoundé. That is what France is doing. Resistance to Yaoundé is resistance to France. Because it is the French who have caused this absorption of Ambazonia, or attempted. They are the ones who asked Ahidjo to abolish the constitution, to abolish the so-called federal constitution in 1972. So they could plant a Sonora in 1975, 2 years after that, and tap the oil. And so on and so forth. So we're not, France, Cameroon is a satellite of France. But we are saying that Cameroon, which is a satellite, does not include Ambazonia. Because we are not part of you, we have not been part of you, legally, historically, and otherwise. We are not part of you. Colonize Yaoundé, if you want. But leave us alone. If we must trade with France, if we must deal with France in any form or shape, we should deal with them on agreed terms with Ambazonia, not on agreed terms with Yaoundé. Because we have come to realize enough is enough. Let France remain there. The Republic citizens can fight if they want to fight. If they don't want to fight France, that's a cup of tea. But Ambazonia is gone, never to return anymore. Over to you.
All right, Barston Basia, resisting Yaoundé is resisting France.